Hello, and let's talk about CTML, the Cognitive Theory Markup Language, where we use SGML or XML computer symbology to represent how we learn things. Let's take a look. The tags appear in pairs, and we'll start with a knowledge tag. We need an opening and closing tag. And knowledge falls into two classes. We can have rote, for regurgitation, or meaning, which is really what we're striving for. And then the things that we're going to learn, usually these are going to be novel, these are new things for the learner to store in the knowledge container. And we can have others here, just dot 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 I'll use for now. But the crucial important thing is you can have only four. There's only four novel things that you can have in the knowledge section. Oh wait, that's not how it works. Hi, my name is Jeff, and I'm here today to talk about how humans learn. And let's start with the opposite question, and let's talk about how humans don't learn. And the most important thing to understand is that a brain is not a tape recorder. Do you know what a tape recorder is? We used to store sound information on these spinny magnetic reels and then play it back later. Yeah, it was a recording device for sound. That's not what a brain is. It doesn't just log everything that comes in. Human learning is described by cognitive load theory. This tries to describe the limits and the circumstances under which learning happens. And it defines several principles. There's the borrowing principle, where we either try to mimic or duplicate what other people do as part of learning. There's a randomness principle, where sometimes just guessing causes learning. There's the narrow limits principle, where you can't just dump a lot of information. You can only do certain bits in certain ways. And there's more, and these all describe, or at least try to describe, what goes on in our heads as we're trying to learn new information. And this can be boiled down to categories that are intrinsic learning. This is the energy and effort that we spend learning the actual thing we're trying to learn. But then there's also extraneous energy that we spend trying to learn. Perhaps we're in a noisy environment and the sound is distracting. We're spending mental energy trying to block that out. Maybe the chair isn't comfortable. Maybe you're worried about your bills or your car. These things that we spend energy on that don't conduct learning directly. And then finally, the synthesis of this intrinsic and extraneous is the germane load. This is the energy then that goes to actually yielding results. There's a whole lot more to it, but that's a quick introduction. There is another theory called the Cognitive Theory of Multimedia Learning, which also attempts to describe how our brains work and how we take information in. But there's an important difference. There's similarities. We borrow a lot of the ideas, this idea that we have this kind of limited processing. But the multimedia learning cognitive theory says that there is a multimedia principle at play. We have two input channels that we can take advantage of, our eyes and our ears. And the way that our brains process information is that we can take information in using both senses, using words and pictures. And it's important to understand that the words don't have to be heard. The words can be seen as well. But the combination of words and pictures gives us the multimedia principle. Dual channels using ears and eyes. Our brains can process that more than one channel alone. This gives us new opportunities, especially in this modern era of technology, to really reinforce learning as opposed to just listening to a long, boring lecture, reading a long, boring textbook. By combining these senses, we can get more out. So the cognitive theory of multimedia learning has some parallels to the cognitive load theory, with this notion of extraneous processing, where the environment and distractions prevent us from focusing our energy on the essential processing of actually learning the information. and the generative processing to organize and store it in the future. So both theories, cognitive load theory, cognitive theory of multimedia learning, attempt to describe what goes on in our heads. They go about it in a couple different ways. They come to some different conclusions, but the important takeaway is your brain's not a tape recorder. You can't just download stuff into your brain. It's got to come through the eyes and the ears in finite capacity. And that's the theories. Thanks for watching.